Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to my 3 takeaways episode from the Brooke Sydnor Curran interview that I posted this past Monday. I hope you guys just really loved her story. I mean, so many different stories from her different marathons that she's done in all 50 states and on all 7 continents. I mean, that accomplishment in and of itself is just absolutely amazing. And then the other parts of her stories that I'm obsessed with are the fact that she started a foundation called Running Brooke, that she had really no experience in the nonprofit industry before even going into it and jumping into that. But she just went in full throttle 10 years ago, started it and done a super successful job with it, and continues to have big goals with it and a big vision for it, for expanding it across the country. And then her brain aneurysm story is just so inspiring because of how well she's been able to bounce back from that. I love her positive attitude towards it, of being the best worst thing that's ever happened to her, because she's flipped that negative situation on its head to make it a positive thing, to where it's part of her story now, and it's part of her story is the recovery process and what she's able to now do since that aneurysm. It was just like a year and a half ago, and she's done so much since that, so many marathons already since that, which is just so inspiring. And she just did a 100-mile race a few weeks back and finished second in her age group, and then 10th overall in the women, I think, which is just unreal. So super inspiring stuff. So make sure that if you're interested in supporting her more, to go to runningbrook.org, and you can find her on Instagram at runningbrook as well. So make sure that you go and support her there. But other than that, let's get right into my 3 takeaways. Number 1 is do something for yourself. And this is what the mini clip that I posted on social media about, because I thought it was super powerful. When she was in her late 20s and early 30s, as a mom, she had like healthy kids, she had a good husband, they had a house, and she talked about how she really had everything that a lot of people would mark as successful, or being successful and being happy. But she was like, I was depressed. I truly was depressed. And then until she found running, until she found something that she did for herself, that's when she started to kind of get out of that depression. Because I can't really relate to this in the sense of like being a mother and like being a caregiver for a lot of other people. But I think the principle here is that you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. You have to make sure that you have your all ducks in a row, that you're filling your own cup up before you fill other people's cup up. Because if you're not filling yourself up, if you're not 100% fully you, then you're not going to be able to help others in the best way possible. You might be helping others, being selfless over and over again, and like doing a lot of good, but you could be even serving them more if you filled your cup up first. So I think that's a really big principle that I was able to take from her, just like to make sure you're doing something for yourself that fills up your passion, so that you can help others even more than you think you probably could if you didn't do something for yourself. Number 2 is do things that scare you. I really loved, or I got this because she talked about how when she was first trying to figure out what she could do to gain a little bit of attention for Running Brooke. And she was talking about how many marathons she could do. And then she asked a guy who's an ultra athlete, an ultra endurance athlete, what would impress you? And he was like, well, a marathon in all 50 states would impress me. And she was like, she had run only a few marathons up to that point. She was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. It's scary, but it's something that is going to really make sure I'm growing through this process. And I think that's the biggest thing about doing things that scare us, is we have to find what we fear and we have to attack it. We have to go after it. If we know that there's going to be growth on the other side of it, then we have to face that fear. We just have to go and try to block that out. It's not even necessarily try to block it out. It's that just realize that there's going to be growth on the other side, and see if you can let that growth motivate you in taking action towards that fear. Because when you actually take action on the fear, that's when you start to discover things about yourself that you wouldn't be able to discover if you had never attacked that particular thing. So I think that's my biggest lesson from attacking something that you're fearful of, is you never know what's going to come out of that. You never know what you might learn. You never know who you might meet. You never know what you might experience, what's going to become part of your future story. So make sure you attack what you're scared of and what you're fearful of. Takeaway number 3 is set yourself up for success. And I got this from the end of the episode when she started talking about implementing running as a habit into a particular day, and how we can motivate others to move more, because we know that movement is such an important process of our day and such an important process of our life. So how can we motivate others to actually take action on starting to move? And she talked about all the small nuances during her daily routine in order to set herself up for success for her run. She talked about how she walked the dogs in the morning, and she talks about how she brings her clothes down in the kitchen because she changes down there after walking the dogs. And that might seem like such a small thing, but when I'm trying to implement habits that aren't easy, that are difficult, like running every day, like working out, like eating healthy, like waking up early, like any good habit, you have to make the path of least resistance in order to make that a routine. So she makes it so there are very little things that could stop her from going on a run in the morning. And as long as you can minimize those things as much as possible, you're going to make that habit part of your routine more frequently. So just try to think about some things that you've tried to implement as habits before, and see if you can be aware of the things that have stopped you in the past, and see if there's anything that you can do to decrease that path of resistance so you can make that habit you can complete that habit on a more routine basis. So again, guys, my 3 takeaways. Number 1 is do something for yourself. You have to fill up your own cup. You have to fill up your own passion before you can help others and really help others in the best way that you possibly can. Number 2 is do things that scare you. That's where growth is. You have to find what you're fearful of. You have to find what you're scared of, and you have to go and you have to attack it, because you never know what's going to come on the other side of that. You never know what experiences you might have. You never know what you might learn, who you might meet, because on the other side of that fear is where you're going to grow and where you're going to end up finding the biggest successes in your life. Number 3 is set yourself up for success. When you're trying to implement something as a habit into your daily routine, you have to minimize the paths of resistance in order to make that thing happen. Like, the more things that are going to get in your way, there's going to be more reasons and more excuses why you shouldn't do that thing that you're trying to implement as a habit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this 3 takeaways episode. I hope you got these 3 takeaways after listening to the interview with Brooke. If you haven't listened to it yet, make sure you go back and listen to it. Unbelievable lady who started her own foundation. She's run a marathon in all 50 states, on all 7 continents, and she stays after this running passion of hers even after her brain aneurysm that happened about a year and a half ago. If you guys like this episode or liked hers, make sure you leave the podcast a rating and review. If you're on the Apple Podcast app, all you got to do is scroll to the bottom, click write a review. I don't even care if it's a 1 or 2 star review. I just want to get a little bit of feedback and figure out how I can be better on this podcast to make sure that I can grow it to the point where I want to grow it. And if you guys like this episode, make sure you share it with a friend who you think might get something out of it, who might get inspired from it, who might start taking action to get a little bit closer and closer to their best you.